The story began with a blacksmith forging a weapon, hammers striking metal with brutal rhythm, sparks flying like they had personal grudges. In the middle of that intense crafting session, he was interrupted by a wandering soul. The martial artist spirit asked him whether he truly thought he would succeed. Then it drifted slightly away, casually saying it was just wondering if he was really going through with that whole revenge thing. The blacksmith, clearly not in the mood for ghostly TED Talks, told it that if it was not going to say something useful, it should get lost. The soul asked if it was guilt. The blacksmith immediately shut that down, saying he should not start lecturing him about burning determination and nonsense like that. Right after that, the blacksmith struck the heated metal with overwhelming force. And then the scene shifted. Wang, the main character, was kneeling before his father's lifeless body. His father was utterly broken. Wang moved closer, tried to wake him up, but it was already too late. His father was dead. He cried out loudly. Someone addressed him, saying that he, a man who created killing weapons, should not talk about revenge. Wang responded that it was absurd. He declared he did not care and that his resolve remained unchanged. After forging the weapon, Wang placed it inside a special box. He thought of himself as the blood cult's blacksmith, the man who had lived 15 years as the demon craftsman. No matter how people responded to him, it did not matter. The tragedies born from his hands would never disappear. So, with his own hands, he would end everything. Suddenly, a voice shouted for the demon craftsman to take his place. Wang entered. Another voice roared that 10,000 demons should bow down and that the demon heaven should live eternally. The demonic sky that had descended upon the mortal world had conquered the central plains in 15 years. A figure proclaimed that the blood cult had finally risen as the true ruler of the martial world. An old man watched silently. The speaker continued praising their supreme Lord who made all this possible, the Blood Demon Lord. The Blood Demon Lord appeared, seated on his throne, radiating overwhelming power. The announcer stepped forward and declared that the demon craftsman honored the occasion by presenting the 11th divine weapon. Wang did not care whether this counted as atonement. He approached the Blood Demon King, knelt, and raised the box. The announcer opened it using martial power. The moment it opened, massive energy burst out. The announcer was shocked. He demanded to know what it was. Then he shouted that there was nothing inside. Wang thought that today it would all end. He instantly controlled the invisible weapon with his power and leaped toward the Demon King. The announcer yelled, demanding to know what trick this insignificant craftsman was playing. But it was too late. Wang had already attacked. He pierced through part of the announcer's body. Before the announcer could comprehend what had happened, blood began exploding out of him violently. Wang did not stop. He went straight for the Blood Demon King and hurled the weapon at him with everything he had. The Demon King did not even flinch. The weapon reached him. Boom! A massive explosion érupted. The entire arena shook. The crowd panicked. Wang was the most worried, but the Blood Demon King had stopped the weapon with a single finger. Wang realized the king was unarmed but not yet defeated. He gathered power again and redirected the weapon toward the Demon King. He unleashed everything. He thought of the martial arts passed down to him. Even if he burned his life and innate energy, it did not matter. The sword was obliterating everything in its path and shot straight toward the Demon King's forehead. The Demon King still did not move. He watched it calmly as it came directly toward his eye. Wang shouted that he would take his life. Another explosion erupted. The entire arena was destroyed. Someone shouted, asking how that bastard possessed such martial arts. Wang himself was stunned by the destruction. In front of him was a pool of blood. He coughed up blood and thought that he had finally done it. Then he heard a voice say it was amusing. Wang spat out more blood from overusing his energy. The Blood Demon King reappeared from the blood, casually commenting that a dagger, without form, could not be sensed. He praised it as a divine artifact worthy of the name, Formless Dagger. He held it in his hand. His body began regenerating. Wang wondered how he knew about the Formless Dagger and how he was still alive. In the next instant, the Demon King grabbed Wang by the neck and lifted him into the air with one hand. The king addressed him as his faithful servant and asked whether he still did not understand. He controlled the Formless Dagger and told him that even if he was a descendant of the Sichuan Tang clan, revenge was futile. Wang told him not to run his filthy mouth carelessly. The Demon King said it was a shame. If Wang still had innate energy left, he would have kept him alive somehow. Wang told him to spare him the nonsense and cursed him for eternity. The Demon King replied that he hoped Wang would meet expectations when that time came. As a final gift in this life, he would bestow something upon him. He chanted a mantra. Wang was shocked and wondered what he was. Then he was thrown into the air like trash. The Demon King controlled the Formless Dagger and sent it flying at him. Wang's eyes widened. The dagger pierced straight through his eye. As he fell, dying, he wondered where everything had gone wrong. He thought that although he was born with a defective Dante, he had discovered the ability to create divine artifacts. Yet, he had never lived as he wanted, not even once. If he had known the future, would things have been different? The day the demonic world descended marked the end of the life of the most vicious divine craftsman under heaven, the demon craftsman, 7. And then something strange happened. His eyes opened. Someone shouted at him, asking if he was even listening. Wong wondered where he was. It was noisy. He looked around. He was in a restaurant. He was certain his breath had stopped earlier. Yet his senses felt vivid. He wondered what had happened to the blood demon. The person yelling at him said his words did not seem to register. His friend addressed him as young Master Wong and told him to snap out of it. The one yelling raised his hand, declaring that a dog that would not come to its senses needed a beating. He slapped Wong. Wong was stunned. The man asked if he was awake now. Wong recognized Nam Yong and Gio. He looked behind him. There stood a girl. She addressed him as young clan leader. Wong realized it was 16 years ago. The celebration for Xiong's acceptance as the Martial Alliance leader disciple. On that day, the seal had been violated and he had failed to protect her. He was certain. He wondered if this was a dream. It did not matter. He approached her and told her everything was fine now and that she should not worry. He apologized for failing to protect her back then. Even if it was a dream, it did not matter. The man yelling demanded to know what nonsense he was muttering. Wong decided he would change everything. The man tried to hit him again. Wong grabbed his hand and calmly said he would give him one chance. If he was human, he should apologize respectfully. The man was stunned, asked what, then flicked his hand away and accused him of losing his mind. He claimed Wong had seduced him first and now acted differently, asking if he really wanted to die. He prepared to draw his sword. Wong commented that his sister had been wise to reject his marriage proposal. The man told him to shut his mouth while he was being nice. Wong said he would reject him too, just by looking at his face. The man grew furious and told him to shut up. Wong added that he smelled foul as well and wondered who could possibly like him. The man snapped, grabbed his sword, and prepared to attack. Wong calmly stated that a nature uglier than his appearance could not be overlooked. The man shouted that they would see if his mouth still ran after he was dead and attacked. Wong instantly dodged. The man cursed him for dodging. Wong thought that a surprise attack was forbidden by the righteous sect. The man kept attacking. Wong kept dodging. He remembered that last time he could not resist and had been beaten. This time he landed smoothly and asked if that was all it took. He drew 2 daggers. The man accused him of acting arrogant while barely dodging. Wong pulled out throwing knives. The man charged, shouting he would not get lucky twice, and attacked with full force. Wong blocked the sword with 2 small daggers. The man was stunned. Wong asked if it was not working out for him. The man thought it was impossible that his sword had been blocked. Wong deflected the attack instantly, leaped up, and kicked him in the stomach. The man was thrown back, but managed to stop himself from falling. He saw Wong standing there completely serious. Wong's eyes turned red. He released aura. He moved at a speed the man's brain could not process. Wong flicked 1 dagger into the air and holding the other attacked. The man shouted for him to wait. Too late. Wong's strike severed his arm. The man now had only 1 arm. Wong coldly remarked that it was too early to look like that, and that they were just getting started. The man trembled, sweating, asking how a worthless nobody from the fallen Sichuan Tang clan, who could not even use a dantian, could pull off such a trick. Wong suddenly remembered something. The man declared he would never let this slide. Wong agreed. The man told him not to come closer. Wong stepped forward anyway, saying he was not some righteous hero. He clashed his daggers in a cross pattern and said they should finish settling their score and that he should look forward to it. The man's eyes filled with tears. Wong was enjoying the fight. He pointed the dagger at him and declared that next would be his heart. As Wong declared that the next target would be his heart, the surrounding spectators collectively lost whatever confidence they had in reality. They wondered what in the world they were watching. Li Hozong had lost. The youngest disciple of the Martial Alliance leader getting overpowered by so-called worthless nobody from the fallen Sichuan Tang clan. They had all assumed the outcome had been obvious from start. Apparently, they had assumed wrong. Someone nervously suggested that perhaps they should stop this now. Wong turned his furious gaze toward that speaker. The effect was immediate. The man felt a chill run down his spine. He muttered that they should head inside first. Wong released his energy again. Blood seeped from near his abdomen. He thought he had to endure it. He could not reveal demonic energy here. He stepped closer to Li Ha-song and said that he had not cared about being looked down upon, but basic human decency should at least have been maintained. Li Ha-sang shouted angrily, demanding to know what nonsense he had been rambling about and telling him to get lost. He tried to flee. Wong calmly stated that he deserved to die and raised his dagger. Liu Ha-sang braced himself for death, but just as Wong struck, someone blocked the attack. Wong instantly fell back slightly and wondered who it was. A man intervened and ordered him to stop. Wang barely managed to steady himself. The newcomer declared they could no longer overlook this matter. Wang recognized them instantly. They were the personal guard unit assigned to each disciple of the alliance leader, the dragon successor guards. One of the guards called him a worthless bastard. Wang identified the dragon successor guard commander, Sun Guan. He thought about it. From this very moment, Sun Guan and Liang had begun colluding. These men would later be remembered as traitors during the Sichuan blood incident. Because of their betrayal, 30% of the martial alliance forces had died simultaneously. Wang's resolve ignited. He decided he had to eliminate them here. He addressed the dragon squad leader, asking, what would happen if they did not overlook it? Li Hozong was not even an official disciple yet. What right did the dragon successor guards have to interfere? The guard was startled. He thought about how Li Hozong was still in his final probation period. How did Wang know that? Wang pointed out that they had watched silently while an innocent woman was harassed. Yet now, they could not stand by while evil was punished. The guard shouted that he was insolent. He declared that punishment was not for the likes of Wang to deliver. Martial Alliance personnel were governed only by Alliance laws. Wang laughed and asked whether this was truly the standard of the righteous path. He released his energy and remarked how impartial they were. The guard drew his sword and demanded how he dared dishonor the great martial alliance. He gave Wang one last chance. Kneel and apologize immediately or face grave consequences. Wang remarked that the dragon successor guard commander certainly had a sharp tongue and asked whether he had risen to his position through eloquence alone. The commander grew furious and said his arrogance pierced the heavens. He ordered his men to seize him. The guards rushed forward. Wang assessed the situation. Sun Guan was likely at peak mastery level. The others were first-rate warriors. They attacked in unison. Wang continuously dodged and blocked their strikes with his daggers. One by one, he evaded them. Somehow, suddenly, one attacked from behind. Wang barely dodged by an inch. Two more came from behind again. Wang reacted instantly, striking one with a dagger and deflecting the other's attack. He moved constantly and thought that after using single-point kill earlier, he only had about 2 years' worth of internal energy left. He decided to end this quickly. One guard charged at him. Wang leaped into the air, causing the attack to miss entirely and struck precisely at the guard's weak point. The guard collapsed unconscious. Wang threw his other dagger, knocking down another. The third guard stared in disbelief, wondering what had just happened. He thought Wang was merely a third-rate warrior and yet was toying with them. Wang tossed a dagger into the air casually. The guard concluded that this bastard was treating them like practice dummies. With another dagger in hand, Wang charged. The guard captain was forced to step in. He shouted at Wang to tone it down and kicked him directly in the abdomen. Wang was sent flying. He coughed up blood and hit the ground. Pain spread through him. The captain pointed his sword at Wang and demanded how a nobody like him dared to rampage. He reminded him that he was merely third-rate trash and asked if he understood the price of causing such disgrace. Wang responded with an unimpressed blah blah blah, stating that the man was so noisy he could not even rest for a moment. He calmly began to stand. He thought this method was the best he could manage right now, even if he had to force it. He circulated energy toward his brain. He realized he had no choice but to open his upper dantian. The guard captain immediately jumped back, asking what trick he was attempting. He claimed that whatever it was, the result would not change. Wang commented that it seemed the captain truly fought with his mouth inside the alliance. He told him to stop the nonsense and come at him. Wang gripped his dagger. The captain released his energy and declared that if Wang truly wished to die, he would grant that wish. He charged forward. Wang prepared for the attack. Then the captain suddenly froze. An attack had appeared out of nowhere. He wondered what was happening. Above, Wang floated something unseen, the formless dagger. Wang was stunned. He wondered why it was there. Then realization struck him. Perhaps it had entered his upper dantian back then. But how was it here now? The captain, unaware of the full situation, prepared to finish him and declared it was over. Wang decided that whatever the reason, it did not matter. What mattered was that it was now in his hands. He threw his 2 regular daggers aside and grasped the formless dagger. He resolved to end this in one strike. As the captain lunged, strange energy filled the space between them. The dragon commander's sword abruptly stopped mid-motion. He realized his body was not listening to. At that moment, an old man stepped in. He effortlessly suppressed Wang's power. He was the strongest martial artist of the current era, the martial alliance leader himself. Everyone present instantly knelt and greeted the alliance leader. Wang remembered his name, the Sword Emperor, Yao Jinhawk. He was speechless, his face tightened, but no words came out. Memories flooded him. In his previous life, as the war with the Blood Cult intensified and the martial alliance's defeat became inevitable, most had knelt before the Blood Cult. But the alliance leader and his sect, the Wuan clan, had been different. The Sword Emperor, guardian of the righteous path, had picked up his sword every single day until he eventually met his death by a divine weapon created by Wang himself. Back in the present, Wang gripped his dagger. He told himself it was not the time to get sentimental. Fortunately, the Sword Emperor had not sensed the presence of the formless dagger within him. Even the Blood Demon had not known about it in his previous life, so it made sense. The next issue, however, stood right in front of him. If the Sword Emperor changed his attitude and the worst happened, could he counterattack with a formless dagger? He considered moving slightly, but the Sword Emperor merely gave a faint laugh and remarked that it was peculiar. He said he could see nothing at all, which was a first for him. It seemed the young man possessed quite an interesting talent. He stroked his beard thoughtfully. Wang remained tense. Then someone appeared behind the Sword Emperor and commented that Wang must have been very frightened. The girl nearby tried to speak, but the woman gently pressed her vital points and told her everything was fine and that she should rest before getting up. The girl instantly fell asleep. Wang was startled. He had not sensed her presence at all. The woman walked up to the Sword Emperor and scolded him, asking what she was supposed to do when he disappeared so suddenly. The Sword Emperor replied that he had no time to spare after sensing that wave of innate energy. He then apologized to Wang and called out, "Boyan." Wang's thoughts raced. If it was Buon, then that meant she was the divine physician. Buon, the former sect leader of Emma and the tiger taming divine healer. He thought the situation had become completely tangled. First the alliance leader, and now the divine physician as well. The scene shifted to 15 minutes earlier. The Sword Emperor and the divine physician had been sitting together. She had told him repeatedly that those people would never change. The Sword Emperor had remained silent. Too many within the alliance had forgotten their valor and abandoned righteousness. That was why he had become alliance leader, to set things right. Yet even after all this time, nothing had changed. The divine physician asked him whether he truly believed correcting the world would be easy. She poured him a drink and called him a foolish mule. They fell silent for a moment. She then told him not to carry everything alone. If it became too difficult, he could step down like she had and spend his days leisurely drinking grain wine. The Sword Emperor gave a faint smile, but the moment he sensed the fluctuation of energy released by Wang, his expression changed. The divine physician warned him not to laugh it off. If he fell into inner demons, there would be no one to stop him. Before she could finish scolding him, the Sword Emperor disappeared instant. She cursed him and followed. Back in the present, she called him quick-footed. Then she approached Lai Ha-song, who lay severely injured. She examined him and said the damage to his foundation was too severe. Even a great divine immortal would find it impossible to restore him completely. The onlookers were stunned. Using projectile techniques alone, Wang had subdued young Master Li, a first-rate expert, despite being only at third-rate level. The divine physician stood up and said that what she observed was accurate. Wang had used projectile techniques. Before she could continue, the Sword Emperor released his aura. Everyone was forced to kneel again. Someone cried out that the wounds were too severe and that a solution had to be found. The Sword Emperor said that as someone walking the righteous path, he had no choice but to step forward. He looked at Wang and asked how he would explain this. Wang replied that there was nothing to explain. His entire body trembled under the immense pressure of the Sword Emperor's aura. Yet he remained standing. He said what he had used was Tang clan martial arts. Though the clan had declined, his blood was still that of the Sichuan Tang lineage. What he had done to those who touched his family was still not enough. Trembling, he straightened his back and declared that since the explanation was sufficient, he would end the courtesy toward his elders. There, from now on, even if the Sword Emperor himself stood in his way, he would not hold back. He released his energy again, gripping his dagger. The Sword Emperor's eyes flared. He asked whether Wang was willing to throw away his life over a moment's emotion and released an even heavier wave of energy. His cold, piercing gaze bore into Wang. He demanded an answer. Was fleeting revenge more important than his life? Wang replied that it was not fleeting revenge. He remembered his past life. He said he was trying to fix this broken world little by little. Even if he had to burn his life away, he would walk the same path as the Sword Emperor. The Sword Emperor thought about the path he himself had once wavered upon and questioned whether this young man truly wished to walk it. He lowered his sword, if that was truly his sincere heart. Wang was startled. The Sword Emperor suddenly raised his sword again, but instead of striking Wang, he pointed the blade toward the ground. Yin and Yang energy manifested. Wang observed countless Tai principles condensed within a single line. He had heard that enlightenment could be gained through observation alone. Even setting that aside, he thought it was beautiful. The Sword Emperor continued performing fluid movements. Mang thought that if a sword could move like this, he would not mind perishing by it. As the sword approached, he could only watch in awe. The Wuong truly embodied strength within softness. Then the Sword Emperor turned abruptly toward Lai Hosang. He called his name. Lai Hosang immediately knelt and addressed him as master. The divine physician commented that although it was her duty as a physician, he had caused unnecessary trouble. Li Hosiang attempted to speak. Before he could finish, the Sword Emperor's sword flashed toward him. He stated that Wang had risked his life to prove his resolve and asked what Lai Hoyang and LT, Unk and GT's resolve was. Li Hos hesitated. The Sword Emperor said he had asked a pointless question. Lai Hosang desperately declared he would also risk his life and claimed that everything had started because Wang approached him first. The Sword Emperor shouted for him to shut up. If he listened any longer, his ears would rot. He then turned to Wang and apologized. He said he would take full responsibility for his disciple's actions and told him not to worry. Wang bowed and thanked him. Liuho protested, calling out to his master. The Sword Emperor coldly told him he had never had a disciple like him. Then he turned back to Wang and said he would leave the child's punishment to his decision. Wang sheathed his dagger and released the energy in his hand. Lehung panicked and told him not to come closer. He grabbed his sword and shouted at him to stay back. Wang calmly stated that even death would be a luxury for him. He stepped forward and punched Lai Hosang hard in the chest, near the abdomen, shattering part of his energy core. Liu Hosang was sent flying, skidding across the floor before crashing into a wall. He lay there in intense pain. Wang looked at him and said he would now experience agony worse than death. The Sword Emperor silently observed the scene. After a moment, he asked whether he could leave their final judgment to him instead. Wang looked at him. He thought that if it was the Sword Emperor, appropriate punishment would be delivered. Since the main culprit had already been dealt with, he could step back. Wang said that since the Sword Emperor had overlooked this junior's rudeness, he would do the same. The Sword Emperor thanked him for preserving his dignity. Wang walked to his sister and picked her up gently. The Sword Emperor said that once he finished settling the case, he would visit their clan and asked if Wang could spare him some time. Then Wang replied that he could spare enough time. He smiled slightly and said it would be for a cup of tea. In Sichuan, there stood a mountain known as Tong Mountain. Originally, it had carried a different name, but over time people began calling it Tong because the Sichuan Tong clan estate stood there. The mountain had once symbolized prestige and fear, but glory unfortunately had an expiration date. The Tang clan had fallen from one of the 7 great houses to merely a mid-sized power struggling to stay relevant. Within the Tang estate, a woman and a man stood discussing urgent matters. The man asked if she would be all right. She replied that the clan leader should not be moving around carelessly. Then she turned sharply and commanded the Dark Fire Squad to listen carefully. She was Deng Run, Wang's older sister. She declared that their top priority was securing the safety of the young clan leader, Wang. They would depart immediately. But before she could finish issuing orders, Wang appeared, carrying the girl. She was mid-sentence when she saw him. Wang simply said he was back. Then he looked around and casually asked where everyone was going. He later entered his room. Standing before the mirror, he looked at his younger reflection and quietly wondered if he had truly come back. Seeing himself again like this, it felt unreal. He remembered the blood demon's final words. Was even this return intentional? Wang muttered that whatever the blood demon was scheming, he would make him regret it without fail. This life will be different. He walked to his shelf and pulled out a book. It was the mental circulation technique, the metallurgical skill passed down among Tankland blacksmiths. He glanced at it, then noticed something on the floor. He wondered if it was a remnant from back then. As expected, circulating energy through meditation had always been a failure for him. The metal circulation technique was originally meant to assist in blacksmithing. While it enhanced bodily regeneration, its efficiency for accumulating internal energy was poor. Accumulating internal energy required proper martial arts cultivation, and this technique had never been designed for that. But because his Dantian treated internal energy as poison, Wang had never had any other choice. He told himself he could only forge ahead. Still, this technique, rejected by orthodox martial artists, had gifted him the ability to create divine artifacts and manipulate Heaven Dang energy. The blood demon's martial art, which he had learned for revenge, had taught him an entirely different solution. He circulated energy and reflected that even before his return, his deformed Dantian, that curse could not be removed by any method. The situation was exactly the same now. He thrust energy forward, striking the air in front of him, but this time he would progress faster. He trained continuously until nightfall. When darkness settled, he assessed himself. All his body's meridians and upper dantian were fully connected. His energy had stabilized. Sitting cross-legged, he evaluated his progress. Méthode circulation technique, 50% mastery. Blood demon's Heaven Dang energy roughly 10%. Both originally utilized the upper dantian and innate energy. The metal circulation technique recovered innate energy. Heaven-defying energy increased the total amount of innate energy. No one would believe such a combination was possible. He clenched his fist and realized he could now freely use innate energy. He had blocked its scent and presence, making it undetectable to others. Unfortunately, what he could not block was his own smell. He decided he should change clothes first. After changing, he thought about the formless dagger. Why had it returned with him? Before he could dwell on it further, he noticed a small figure sneaking into his room. A young boy. The boy nervously apologized and explained that the clan leader had summoned him to the Thousand Rain Hall. It was urgent, so he had taken the liberty of coming personally. He bowed deeply. Wang told him it was fine. It was about time they called him anyway. He then asked if the boy was Jang ill. The boy was startled and confirmed it. Wang smiled faintly and said it was good to see him again. The boy looked confused, clearly wondering how the young clan leader knew his name. Wang walked through the Tang clan grounds. Everyone stared at him. He arrived at the Thousand Rain Hall, the clan's main council chamber. Before entering, he heard heated voices inside. Someone was shouting whether the current proposal made any sense. Another voice demanded if there was any other way to prevent the situation. Wang opened the door and stepped in. Several elders and the clan leader were seated inside. Wang walked forward, his teeth clenched unconsciously as memories from his past life surfaced. Finally, he knelt. He greeted them formally as the young clan leader responding to the clan leader's command. The clan leader told him to rise. That man was Mu Yule, the Tang clan leader. Wang obeyed. An elder muttered how he could appear so confident. Wang observed the room calmly. The current Tangle clan was in a poisoned state, not literally, but politically and internally. He remarked that since the discussion seemed to be in full swing, they should continue. The root of everything lay in two fatal poison. Suddenly, Yale, chief escort of the clan's escort agency, raised his hand and resumed speaking. He stated that the young clan leader must be fully aware of how serious the incident he had caused was. Wang clenched his fist silently. Yale continued that for the sake of the clan, he begged Wang to go directly to the Martial Alliance Law Enforcement Hall. Wang immediately recognized it. The first poison, Yale. In his previous life, everything Yale had built within the clan had become the foundation of its downfall. Wang stared at him calmly. This time he swore he would take everything away from him without fail. And now, standing face to face, confrontation was about to begin. The past had now become the future. Wang stood behind his uncle. His uncle suddenly declared that he would go independent. His uncle turned and replied that it meant exactly what it sounded like. Wang shouted, asking whether he understood what would happen to the Tang clan if the man escort agency disappeared. His uncle casually flicked his hand and said that was precisely why he was leaving. Wang demanded to know how he could do such a thing. His uncle replied that Wang would not understand Tang Mu Yule had stolen the clan head position from him. He had waited a very long time for this day. Then he laughed maniacally and declared that now the Tang clan would be his. Back in the present, Wang remembered. If he had not reached the golden armament arts to 5 stars and master divine artifact creation in his previous life, the Tang clan would have been crushed by financial hardship long before the blood cult invaded. He looked at his uncle calmly. Back then, the clan had nearly been wiped out before the invasion even began. Now, in the council chamber, Tong Jun, the medicine hall master and clan physician, shouted that the chief escort's disrespect toward the legitimate heir had no bound. He reminded everyone that among those dragged to the law enforcement hall, not a single one had returned safely, sending the young clan head there must never happen. Wang's uncle replied that he felt the same way. The physician asked why. Then the uncle answered that nevertheless this was the only way for the Tang clan to survive. He stood and questioned whether there was any force that would side with them, even if it meant opposing the Qing Chong sect. If not, did they have a martial master strong enough to stop them? Silence followed. Another elder agreed that no one would take their side. When a Murim alliance moved, they would be as good as dead. Hearing this, Wang understood. The clan was desperate because of Yale's schemes. The distinctive, unyielding white spirit of the Tang clan of Sichuan was hard to find now. Defeatism had spread deep. That was the second fatal poison. In his previous life, he had probably been no different from them. But the current him was different. He would repay kindness without fail and carve his enemies in blood. That was the blood they were born with. The chief escort then asked how he had defeated the Murmur Alliance leader's youngest disciple. Surely he had not resorted to forbidden means. Wang thought coldly that he should just wait. He would repay everything tenfold. Out loud, he said that was not what he should be asking. His uncle flared up and shouted that this was not the time for jokes. In his mind, he thought that Wang was at best a third-rate martial artist while the opponent was near peak first-rate level. Then Wang released a wave of energy. The pressure spread. His uncle's expression stiffened. He realized Wang was enduring his aura. Suddenly, Mule shouted for silence. He asked Wang directly why he had fought Lai Ha-song. Wang replied that from that moment on he would explain everything without leaving out a single detail. He recounted the entire incident. When he finished, the chief escort shouted that he had fought a life and death duel with the alliance leader's disciple over nothing more than a petty quarrel. Wang confirmed it. The chief escort stood and demanded how that could even be called an explanation. Wang calmly replied that it was. His uncle accused him of throwing his own blood relative into mortal danger and acting shameless. Wang looked at him and asked what the Tang clan of Sichuan meant to him. His uncle questioned what he was suddenly talking about. Wang answered that in his eyes, the Tang clan was a place where every member was a cornerstone. No matter what calamity struck, they must protect one another with their lives. Mule felt as though he was hearing the last words of the previous clan head echoed again. Wang clenched his fist and declared that if it was to protect their blood relatives, they would not hesitate to give up their lives. That was the Tang clan of Sichuan. The room fell silent. Wang then asked what exactly the problem was. Should he have done nothing and watched his sister be violated? The chief escort snapped that his question was not over. He was still under suspicion of using forbidden methods. Wang dropped a dagger onto the floor in front of them. Someone recognized it as a mere practice dagger. They asked whether he had used that against the alliance leader disciple. How could he subdue a first-rate expert with it? Wang replied that he had used innate core energy. An elder gasped, asking whether that would not cost him his lifespan and leave him terminally ill. Another muttered that if that were true, it would explain how he had punished Li Hozong. Someone corrected him, telling him to watch his words. Wang then turned to his uncle and asked whether his doubts had been resolved. His uncle trembled in frustration. The clan head's advisor asked whether he had truly used innate core energy. When he returned, his energy seemed normal. Wang explained that the alliance leader and the crouching tiger divine physician had appeared and examined his body. His uncle stood abruptly and shouted that it was enough with the lies. What could they possibly gain by helping him? At that exact moment, someone rushed in shouting that there was trouble. The alliance leader. Before he could finish, the alliance leader himself stepped inside. Everyone froze. The Sword Emperor placed a hand on Wang's shoulder. The messenger announced that the alliance leader had arrived. The Sword Emperor asked Wang whether he had been well. Mu Yule and the others greeted him respectfully. Mu Yule introduced himself formally as the Tong clan head and apologized for failing to receive him properly. The alliance leader dismissed the formalities. Mule thanked him graciously and stated he would not make an issue of any discords. The chief escort attempted to insert himself, calling it a great honor and introducing himself as Yeol of the Mannheim escort agent. The alliance leader gave him a brief side glance and politely suggested he refrain from joining their conversation. A subtle wave of pressure followed. Yal immediately apologized. Will explained that given their situation, even offering proper hospitality was difficult. The alliance leader said that was fine. He was there in his capacity as the Murim Alliance leader. He then raised his hand and offered a sincere apology on behalf of the Murim Alliance. He admitted that he should have disciplined his disciple more strictly. As the master, his disciple's fault was his own. To convey his apology to the victim and the Tang clan, he offered sufficient compensation. Mule responded that the Tang clan had done nothing to settle the matter. It had been Wang's actions alone. Therefore, they could not accept compensation meant for the clan. He respectfully requested that the alliance ensure the incident was not distorted and that the alliance intervene appropriately. Wang knew exactly why. The Qingchong sect would attempt to spread false rumors to cover their shame, just as in his previous life. That slander would target both him and the Tang clan. The alliance leader stepped forward and assured them they had nothing to worry about. Regarding today's disturbance, the Qingchong sect would not be allowed to hold the Tang clan responsible. Wang thought that this was not a bad outcome. He had suppressed Qingchong's influence and restored his father's standing. Then the alliance leader added that there was one final matter. Wang sensed there was more. The Sword Emperor looked directly at him and asked whether he would become his disciple. The entire clan was stunned. Everyone rose to their feet in shock at the alliance leader's words. After hearing the offer from the alliance leader, Wang genuinely wondered if he had heard correctly. The Sword Emperor wanted him to become his disciple. The hall immediately erupted into whisper. Some speculated that this meant the young clan head would become the alliance leader's sixth disciple. Others quickly corrected them, reminding everyone that Li Hos had been expelled. That would make Wang the fifth disciple. Even the clan head's secretary was visibly shaken. Every sect that had produced one of the alliance leader's disciples had risen to become a core power within the Murim Alliance. If that happened to the Tang clan, they might reclaim the glory they had lost. The Sword Emperor observed Wang's stunned expression and remarked that he could make such a face after all. He said that now Wang finally looked his age. Wang bowed and thanked the alliance leader. Meanwhile, his uncle's thoughts were spiraling. If Wang accepted, the entire power structure he had carefully built over the years would collapse overnight. Wang then spoke. He said that although he was truly grateful, he did not believe he could accept the offer. Before anyone could react, the alliance leader placed a hand on Wang's shoulder and casually told him it was a good decision. He added that in that case, he should rest well today and prepare to leave with him for Qifeng tomorrow. Then he paused. He realized what Wang had actually said. He stared at him and clarified whether he was truly refusing. He admitted that it was the first time he had ever been refused and that he was slightly taken back. He asked for the reason. Wang respectfully replied that he could only offer apology. In the future, he must represent his clan. Just as the Sword Emperor's own master had been from the Wang sect, he bowed deeply. The Sword Emperor contemplated his answer and finally said that it was reasonable. Wang inwardly sighed in relief. Fortunately, the Sword Emperor did not constantly use his golden eyes technique. While the privileges of being his disciple were tempting, they were no different from a poisoned holy grail. If his reverse, heaven-defying energy and demonic arts were discovered, it would mean immediate execution. The Sword Emperor admitted he could not help but feel disappointed. Wang replied that he felt the same. Even the brief instruction he had received earlier had been immensely helpful. He had marveled at the profound principles of Wang, the countless layers of Tai overlapping within a single stroke. The Sword Emperor was surprised. He had perceived that much. He wondered what he was supposed to do now. He truly wanted this young man. Then he turned to Mule and said he had raised an outstanding talent. Mule responded humbly that there must be a reason behind such praise. The Sword Emperor said he could not force Wang to follow him, but he also could not leave empty-handed. He drew his sword. The blade shimmered faintly under the light, its surface carrying a subtle moonlight pattern. He placed it before Wang and said he should at least leave a small light upon the next generation's path. He offered it to him. Moonfall, the sword forged from salvaged meteoric iron. Gasps filled the hall. Wang's father's assistant realized this was far beyond a mere gift. It was official acknowledgement of Wang's strength. Wang, meanwhile, was thinking something entirely different. He could not believe he had just been handed such rare material for divine artifact creation. His luck was absurd. All preparations for creating a divine artifact were now complete. He bowed and accepted the sword, stating that refusing again would be discourteous. He would accept it with gratitude. The Sword Emperor nodded and said he appreciated his kindness. Then he handed him a token. It was his personal token. He said that when the time came and Wang required help, he need only present it. Anyone in the Central Plains would grant his request, as if it were the Sword Emperor's own command. His uncle's face stiffened. Moonfall and the Alliance leader's personal token. Why would such privileges be given to a brat from a declining clan? Elsewhere at an inn, Sun Guan, the former Dragon Guard commander, sat alone. He seethed. This was all because of that Tang bastard. Two men nearby were gossiping. They said that because of the Tang clan, all of Suchin was in an uproar. If the Alliance leader's judgment was not mistaken, the Tang clan might rise again. One of them mentioned the escort Dragon Guards. They had been severely disciplined. The Dragon Guard commander had been exiled to the Xinjiang branch, the remote backwoods mountain region. He could say goodbye to any important position. Sun Guan crushed the cup in his hand. He thought bitterly that Wang had obviously used evil martial arts, yet he was the one being punished. He swore he would repay this humiliation. Back at the Tang clan estate, two guards stood outside, while Wang sat on his bed, thinking his father had ordered increased patrols in preparation for potential ambushes and had forbidden him from going out. Wang sighed. They were going too far. He did not wish to become a disobedient child, but he could not afford to waste time. He looked at Moonfall. Then he stood up, picked up the sword, and smiled slightly. He stepped outside and vanished instantly. One guard sensed something, but dismissed it. Wang leapt from roof to roof, easily avoiding the patrols. Two guards approached, but he was already gone. He noted that they might have noticed him because his level had risen, but that was fine. First, he needed to inspect the fire hall's capabilities. More importantly, he needed to reach the workshop and craft his main weapon. When he arrived near the Tang clan's inner grounds, he paused. The estate looked desolate. Buildings were worn, some broken. Most residents had already left. Wang quietly promised that he would restore it. No, he would make the Tang clan more prosperous than it had ever been. He stepped toward the Iron Hall. It all began here. Normally, he would need permission to enter, but at this hour, it should be empty. He pushed open the door. Immediately, a voice spoke from inside, asking what brought him there so late at night. Wang stiffened. He bowed and respectfully introduced himself to the Iron Hall master. Internally, he cursed his luck. Of all the people to run into it had to be him. Even his father could not treat this man carelessly. He was the clan's greatest elder, an executive without the Tang surname, the master of all Tang clan blacksmiths, the master of Iron Hall, the Black Hand artisan, Yong Yen. He had devoted himself to the Tang clan due to his connection with the previous clan leader, but he had always remained neutral in clan affairs. That was why the memory of that day was so vivid. The day the Manny escort agency declared independence, Yong Yan, who had lived solely for crafting divine swords, had left the Tang clan with Yale without a single word. He had only looked at Wang once. Those resentful eyes had burned into him before he turned away. Wang still did not understand why Yong Yan had harbored resentment toward him when they had no direct connection. But those eyes had been irreversible. He thought it was unfortunate. He would have to postpone his plans. Out loud, he apologized for disturbing him at such an hour, but said an urgent idea had suddenly struck him, and he wished to put it into practice. Yong Yin simply replied that he should do so. Wang Bling, he asked for pardon. The master repeated that he should go ahead and stop doling. Then Yong Yin turned and called for someone to come out. A young girl stepped forward. It was Si. She greeted Wang shyly and thanked him for what he had done last time. Wang said he was relieved she was alive. That was all that mattered. Yong mentioned that the clan leader had forbidden Wang from leaving for 7 days and nights. If it had not been for the young clan leader, he stopped abruptly. Wang felt something shift in the air. Sail A and Yong Yin both turned their heads. The master told Sail On not to disturb him and said they would leave. Wang realized what was happening. Yong Yin was allowing him to use his equipment. To a blacksmith, that was equivalent to a martial artist lending his weapon. As Siole left, she told Wang she would properly thank him next time. Wang wondered briefly whether the two of them had already known each other in his previous life. Before leaving fully, Yong Yin turned back and called him young clan leader. Wang responded. The master hesitated as if wanting to say something. Then he dismissed it and left. Wang stood there in silence. After they were gone, he exhaled. He could not waste this rare opportunity. He stepped fully into the workshop. The tools were neatly arranged. He recalled a saying from the martial world that once a martial artist reached mastery, weapons were no longer the goal, but merely a means. He muttered that it was complete nonsense because in this world, divine artifacts existed, weapons of a different caliber that could rival martial arts themselves. He examined the blades within the hall. To think these were considered high quality. The 10,000 Iron Hall's craftsmanship was respectable. Yong Yin deserved the title of master craftsman, but it was still insufficient. Even without the divine artifacts Wang had created in his previous life, the blood cult had possessed countless demonic weapons and armaments, not equal to the 10 demonic weapons perhaps, but terrifying and vicious enough to destroy them. He would need divine artifacts of equal or superior rank. He approached the forge and wore black leather gloves. Normally, he would not use them for blacksmithing, but what he was about to do was not ordinary forging. He took Moonfall, the meteoric iron sword gifted by the Sword Emperor, and plunged it into the blazing flames. As the metal began to glow, his mind drifted back to his previous life. The joy of discovering his ability to create divine artifacts had been short-lived. The blood cult's invasion had begun soon after. He remembered waking up in a cell, his head aching. He had looked around in confusion. He had thought he was dead. He had cried out, wondering why he alone was alive. Then the blood demon had appeared outside the bars. He had mocked him as the metallurgist who created divine artifacts. A legendary feat only the Tang clan founder had achieved. Yet Wang had mastered it. Trembling with rage, Wang had tried to attack him, shouting that he would kill him. The blood demon had crushed him with pressure, forcing him to the ground. He had ordered him to forge a sword if he wished to live. Wang had told him to go to hell. The blood demon had asked whether he did not care if his remaining clansmen died. He had left the sword before him and walked away, stating that unifying the martial world was only a matter of time. Even without divine artifacts, next time he would throw the heads of his clansmen at his feet. Wang had analyzed the situation coldly. There was no reason to believe such a cruel man would spare his clan. But if there was even a possibility they were alive, he had no choice. He had agreed. However, he had demanded that divine artifacts were created according to the wielder's martial art. If the blood demon truly wanted one, he would have to share his martial art. Thus, for the first time, Wang had declared he would make the blade of revenge bloom. Over 15 years, 10 weapons were born. In return, he learned 10 martial arts, including the blood demon's heaven-daying energy. Those 10 weapons became known as the 10 demonic weapons, and he became known as the most vicious divine craftsman under heaven. Back in the present, the meteoric iron glowed intensely. Melting such iron with ordinary 10,000 Iron Hall firepower would be impossible. But with the metal circulation technique and divine artifact creation principles, it was feasible. He focused. The blade softened. He poured the molten metal into a prepared cast. Then he began hammering. Each strike was precise, furious, controlled. After shaping it, he plunged it into water. Steam exploded upward. He muttered that it must simultaneously block everything. While cutting through everything, he thought of the symbol of the blood silk demon emperor, Surin, Heaven Silk. Originally, Heaven Silk consisted of 9 sheets. Due to material limitation, he could only produce 1. But that was enough. He pulled out a thin, shimmering strand. What he intended to create was not Heaven Silk itself. It was a red thread that surpassed even the legendary Heaven Silkworm thread, said to be the thinnest and strongest in the Central Plains. The sibling work of one of the 10 demonic weapons. He held it between his finger. It was nearly invisible. He had created the Heaven Net. At that exact moment, killing intent burst from behind him. An assassin lunged with a dagger aimed directly at his back. Just as the blade was about to strike, it stopped. The assassin's eyes widened. The invisible thread had blocked it. Wong did not even turn immediately. He remarked calmly that for Martial Alliance elites, this was sloppy. Then he turned. He addressed the former Dragon Successor Guard Commander, Sun Guan. He corrected himself politely. He said the timing was perfect. He had something he wanted to test, stretching the thread between his fingers. He smiled faintly at the enraged commander. Wong looked at Sun Guan calmly and said that he had saved him the trouble of hunting him down, so he should actually be thanked. Sun Guan's expression twisted. He thought Wong was being arrogant. It was just a measly thread. He glanced at his dagger and decided he would cut through it in a single strike. With a smirk, he mocked him and pulled his blade against the thread. The dagger shattered instantly. The fragments scattered across the floor. For a brief second, Sun Guan just stared at the broken pieces in disbelief. Before he could react, Wong flicked his fingers and the thread wrapped around his arm. Sun Guan barely managed to touch it. Wong commented that it seemed he had grabbed just any weapon to avoid leaving evidence. That level of preparation was disappointing. He flexed the thread lightly and asked how long he could last without a proper weapon. Then in an instant, the threads shot out in every direction toward Sun Guan. Left, right, from above, from blind angles. Swan's mind raced, trying to track them. Wong observed that he planned to wrap protective energy around his body to defend. So he decided to demonstrate something else. The Divine Maiden's Sex Divine Needle Technique. He condensed the thread into needle-like points and shot them forward. They pierced through Sun Guan's protective energy shield effortlessly. One needle sliced cleanly past his head. A moment later, blood sprayed. His ear had been severed. He dropped to one knee, clutching the side of his head in agony. Wong remarked calmly that one ear was gone, and now there was no point in hiding identities anymore. He should have brought out his real skills earlier. Sun Guan roared in fury and drew his sword. He declared that a complete sword aura could only be countered by another sword aura. Wong had not even reached the level to manifest one. Whatever trick he used, victory would be his. He charged forward, but before his strike landed, something slammed into him. The impact was overwhelming. He was sent flying. He crashed to the ground, coughing up blood, demanding to know what that had been. When he looked up, he saw Wong holding a shield. It was woven entirely from thread. Sun Guan was stunned. Just a shield made from thread. Wong explained calmly that his sword was fake. He told him not to give up so soon. He reflected internally that the Divine Maiden's Sex flawless divine garment was not like iron skin, which merely hardened the body. It strengthened what one wore like armor. The Heaven Net appeared like thin thread, but it maintained the strength of meteoric iron. Enhanced with flawless divine garment, it could even block thunderbolt bullets. Before Sun Guan could recover, the threads lashed out again. One pierced through shoulder. Blood sprayed. Sun Guan's vision blurred. Wong stepped forward and stood before him. He commented that his skill was disappointing compared to his confidence. Looking at Wong's aura, Sun Guan felt something primal. He wondered how a greenhorn who had not reached mastery could possess such monstrous ability. Wong placed a hand on his shoulder and told him not to worry. He intended to hand him over to the law enforcement hall, so he would not kill him a bit would be acceptable. Just like Li Hozong, the name triggered terror. Sun Guan remembered liaison et lieutenant, un que j'étais, es chasseur d'antan. He thought he would rather die than become in a desperate move. He suddenly leapt upward, smashing through the roof and fleeing. Wong clicked his tongue. He had expected at least a proper struggle. Instead, he chose to run. In the bamboo forest nearby, Sun Guan sprinted wildly. He thought it was disgraceful to flee from someone barely second-rate. But those eyes, they were the eyes of a demon. He poured his remaining internal energy into his footwork. At this rate, Wong would not catch him. He had superior internal reserves. Now he needed a plan. The Alliance would never accept him back. He would follow the Yangtze River and join the evil faction instead. If he handed over confidential information, he might secure a decent position. Mid-thought a voice interrupted him. Wang stood ahead. He commented that traitorous bastards were the same even when they returned. Sun Quan immediately attacked. Wang calmly said his brain must be decorative if he thought escaping to the black bamboo forest was smart. The bamboo here was tougher than steel. Sun Quan cursed internally. He no longer had the energy to release sword aura. He switched to a thrust technique and charged directly at Wang. If he could pierce his heart in one strike, but something felt wrong. Wang pulled on the threads he had discreetly laid earlier. In the next instant, Sun Wan's foot was gone, cleanly severed. He collapsed, screaming. Wang smiled faintly as he watched him fall. He tightened the threads around him, anchoring them to surrounding bamboo stalks. Then he yanked him violently. Sun Quan crashed to the ground again. Wang approached him slowly and remarked that the heaven net never released prey once it bit. Bound and bleeding, Sun Quan felt the faint presence of innate energy in the threads. He finally understood. This madman, desperate, he begged for mercy. He claimed he had lost his mind for a moment. Wang looked at him with cold fury and told him never to appear before his eyes again. Then he turned and walked away. Sun Quan bowed repeatedly, smashing his forehead into the ground and thanking him. The moment Wang's back was fully turned, Sun Quan's eyes changed. He grabbed a hidden dagger. He thought that in the afterlife, Wang would realize his mistake. For a martial artist, carelessness meant death. He lunged, but before his blade reached its target, another weapon flashed through the air, the formless dagger. It pierced straight through his body. The entire left side of Sun Quan's torso vanished in a single strike. He collapsed lifelessly. Wang did not even turn fully. He said calmly that if he thought he would be surprised, there was no need to worry. From the beginning, he had never trusted him. After killing Sun Quan, Wang finally took a long, deep breath. He muttered that normally one should remain calm after cleaning up trash. Elsewhere, chaos erupted. Someone shouted that the dragon's successor guard commander had tried to kill him. How did that make any sense? Another voice snapped that if they had punished the dragon's successor guards from the start, as the alliance leader had wanted, none of this would have happened. An old man demanded to know how they planned to clean up this mess. Another tried to explain that no one had expected things to escalate this far. The old man barked at an elder to prepare an additional compensation plan immediately, while others scrambled to calm the situation. The alliance leader simply sat there watching. Wang's actions had sent waves through the entire orthodox martial world. Back at the Tang clan estate, inside the chief escort's room, Yale asked whether the decision had been made. Across from him sat Yung Da, deputy chief steward of the inner and outer halls. Yung Dao asked whether there would truly be no problems if they hired high-class vagrant warriors. He wondered if it was safe to secretly continue escort work under the guise of martial alliance compensation. Yale replied that even if it was a request from a martial alliance, as long as they hired peak-level martial artists, there would be nothing to worry about. It would be done secretly. What problems could arise? He poured tea calmly and said someone needed to think broadly. Then he added that once this job was done, they would destroy the current Tang clan, and he would promise Yung Da the clan leader seat in the new Tang clan. Yung Dao stared at his reflection in the tea. He was not entirely satisfied, but he drank it anyway. Deal sealed. Yale laughed and praised him for making the right decision. After Yung left, Yale thought to himself that Wang had almost become an obstacle. But thanks to that incident, he could monopolize the martial alliance compensation and turn disaster into profit. He even mentally thanked his nephew. Meanwhile, in his room, Wang was training, throwing punches into the air, balancing his stance, circulating energy. After some time, he stopped. He concluded that his recovery was complete, though his entire body still hurt. For full days had passed. The impact of pushing his innate energy to its limits had been severe. The pain from his defective energy core had spread through his body like hundreds of blades, stabbing him. He had passed out and regained consciousness repeatedly. He had done it to measure his current level. But he had also overused innate energy during divine artifact creation. There had been no need to use one-point kill against Sun Quan. He thought of Surin, the blood-wave demonic empress who moved like an assassin. True to her origins in the divine maiden sect, she had been unmatched in curses across the central plains. Each of her 9 heavenly phase waves carried a different curse. Those curses were engraved into HeaveNet, the prototype of heavenly wave. Currently, the only secret art available to him was one-point kill embedded in his index finger. He looked at his hand. Its ability to never miss remained intact. He needed to recover his remaining energy quickly. He assessed Sun Quan's strength. Late stage, peak mastery, yet still weaker than an average blood cult squad member. Against early high peak mastery opponents, he could match evenly. But against captains at late high peak mastery, he could likely last only 50 exchanges. Then there was the demonic weapon, the formless dagger. He picked it up. With this weapon, the story would be different. Unfortunately, he could only use it for about 30 minutes for now. Suddenly, he heard a voice outside. Someone was telling a young lady to move aside, saying this put them in a difficult position. Wang immediately recognized the voice, his sister. Outside, guards were telling her that the clan leader had ordered no one to enter. She replied that the order was meant to prevent assassin, not to treat her like this. She brushed past them and entered. Wang greeted her calmly and suggested they sit. She sat quietly. Wang wondered if she was angry. She had told him not to cause trouble after the incident with Li Hozong, and he had gone and started a new one. Her anger would be understandable. He briefly wondered whether she would hit him. He was no longer a child, after all. Finally, she broke the silence. She said he looked fine for someone who had caused so much commotion. He apologized. She poured tea and told him to drink it first. He asked what it was. She explained that she had bought 100-year-old ginseng for 2 days straight. It would nourish his body. He protested that he could not accept something so valuable. She replied that it had been the reward she received for winning at the Dragon Phoenix Summit. It was useless. She had planned to use it anyway. Wang knew that was a lie. She had fought alone to rise among the 9 dragons and 4 phoenixes of the era. Yet she was stuck at a plateau. He remembered how happy she had been when she had broken through a bottleneck once before. He told her she should drink it instead. She asked if he was ignoring her sincerity. That expression, he had seen it when he was little. Now it felt awkward. Memories flooded back. The slaughter of his clan and his previous life. He suddenly began panting. She rushed to him and asked what was wrong. He said he was fine, just dizzy. She insisted he drink it quickly and threatened to punish him if he refused again. He realized there was no overcoming her stubbornness. He decided to accept her sincerity and guide her to a much higher realm in martial arts. Later, he asked her to watch over him. That night, while she remained in the room, he meditated. He had only intended to heal his injuries, but the value of 100-year-old ginseng exceeded expectation. He absorbed at least 15 years' worth of energy. When he finished, she asked whether he was done. He said it had helped greatly and that his body felt much lighter. He thanked her. Then he asked whether her main weapon was still the iron fan. She confirmed and showed it. He told her that once his punishment was lifted, she should come to the forge. Before he could finish, a voice announced that the clan leader had entered. Wang thought his father was here. His sister seemed unaware as well. Both siblings greeted him formally. Mule stepped inside. He noticed the empty ginseng container. His daughter panicked internally, realizing she had taken the ginseng without telling him. She tried to explain. Mule cut her off and told her to leave. She bowed and exited. Now father and son were alone. Wang wondered whether his father had discovered the traitor. Mule called his name. Wang responded. Miles said he knew that he had a secret. Wang's father looked at him steadily and said that when he faced Lai Ha-song and Sun Guan, he had clearly been hiding something, even from the alliance leader himself. Wang asked how he knew. His father replied that no father would fail to notice even the smallest changes in his son, but he clarified that he had not come to interrogate him. Wang felt his chest tighten. If he could, he would tell his father everything about the past life, the blood cult, the regret, the guilt. He missed him. He was grateful. He wanted to apologize. His father then asked whether he knew why he had not sought him out until now. Wang assumed it was because of his mistakes. His father shook his head and said it was because of his own thinking. Wang asked what he meant. Mule sat down and explained that all his life he had believed in the alliance and walked the path of chivalry. Because of his stubborn adherence to principles, the clan's wealth had steadily declined. Even though he always felt indebted to the clan, he had no regrets about staying true to his beliefs. Until now, he said that gallant righteousness was sometimes nothing more than a joke. In the end, he had been just a man who could not protect his own son. He called Wang's name. Wang responded. Mule continued that although Wang's way of handling things had been rough, he had not been wrong. He told him not to change his way of resolving problem. Instead, perhaps he himself should change to follow the path Wang walked during difficult times. But in return, he asked for one promise. Wang asked what it was. Mule said he must not lose his chivalrous spirit. Even if what he was doing now was right, his killing intent was too strong. If he devoted himself solely to executing criminals, then in the end, he would be no different from them. Wang thought carefully. He admitted honestly that he was not entirely sure what chivalry truly meant anymore. In his view, those who deserve to die should die. Some criminals would never change because they were born with evil natures. Even so, he understood his father's concern and what he needed to be cautious about. He promised that if someone truly did not deserve to die, he would give them one chance. Mu Yel nodded in satisfaction. That was enough. Half a month later, a carriage rolled along the road. Inside, a girl remarked that she had thought this place was in the middle of nowhere. Yet there were many people visiting. Another girl warned her that such words could be considered disrespectful and told her to mind her tongue. The first girl's name was Young. The second was Yen. Yen was a first-class disciple of the Ma sect. Young was a second-class disciple. Jan scoffed and asked how a lowly Tang clan could possibly criticize the Great My sect. Suddenly, their teacher, a lady monk, reprimanded Yin sharply for her impudence. She immediately fell silent. The teacher was the abbess, leader of the My sect. She instructed them to maintain proper discipline until they reached their destination and to temper their minds through physical restraint. Then the abbes glanced outside. She thought the energy here felt strong. Hadn't people said the Tang clan had declined to its lowest point? Outside, chaos filled the street. People were shouting not to push. Others protested that they were not pushing on purpose. Someone yelled not to cut the line. Young asked why it was so crowded. The abbess observed that there appeared to be more patients here than at their own sect. The disciples stepped out of the carriage. They heard someone say that the young clan leader's medical skill reached the heavens, that he could cure any illness with a single needle. Another person said he had learned directly from the divine healer. Someone else added that even the escort agency had been rising lately. The Tang clan had originally excelled at blacksmithing and medicine. Jan muttered that if one had to wait this long, wouldn't it be better to go to the Ma sect, whose skills were far superior? A bystander replied that Ma was only for the rich. Common people could not even receive a diagnosis there. Another added that unless one needed to see a divine healer personally, the young clan leader was a better choice. A few days ago, he had cured someone whom even Ma could not treat. Young said that did not make sense. The abbes silently warned her to watch her words. She remembered their Granum's instructions. They were to go to the Tang clan to apologize on behalf of the Martial Alliance. There must be something to learn from the Tang clan's heir. They were told to mind their conduct. Even as sect leader, if she caused trouble, she would be punished. Young offered to announce their arrival. The abbes declined. Perhaps what they could learn here was not merely an apology, but healing. Inside, a voice called for the next patient. The abbess and her disciples entered. She said they should at least witness the abilities people claim surpass their own sect. Patients went in and came out quickly. The abbes noted how swiftly consultations ended. Yin whispered that this pace was suspicious. She suspected fraudulent practice, numbing pain temporarily and disguising it as a cure. When their turn came, someone escorted them to a waiting room and asked them to wait. The abbes thanked her. They peered through a small opening in the door. Inside, Wang was speaking to a patient. Young commented that security seemed lax. Young thought he looked irritating. Young mentally told her teacher that she suspected fraud. If she found proof, she would act immediately. Inside, a mother and her daughter sat before Wang. The mother pleaded for help. The little girl told her not to beg. Wang reassured them and asked what the problem was. The mother said other healers claimed her daughter would never walk again. Wang examined her leg and asked whether she had thrown herself towards something. The mother was shocked and said 3 months ago she had avoided cart. Wang nodded and identified the condition as Joe Kasha damaged, nerves near the shin bone causing muscle stiffen. Outside, Yin was frustrated at how quickly he diagnosed it. Even the abbes admitted silently that she had not recognized it instant. Young realized the diagnosis was accurate. Yin attempted to communicate mentally again, but received no response. The mother asked if he could treat it. Wang donned gloves, took out a needle, and said he would treat her immediately. Young sneered internally that the black needle was as dark as his heart. But Young and the abbess were stunned. He was channeling inner energy through an impossibly thin needle. It was even finer than the expensive silver hair needle they had purchased. The abbess realized that needle was worthy of being called a divine artifact. Moments later, the girl stood up. She moved her leg freely. She exclaimed in joy. Her mother wept in gratitude. The abbess examined the girl's leg carefully. He had not merely provided temporary relief. He had perfectly reconnected nerves and meridians. He was a genius. An unparalleled genius. The abbes felt the weight of her earlier arrogance. She thought the proper thing to do was to speak honestly and apologize. As the girl and her mother left, the girl happily said she would return. Wang told her not to come back since she was cured. She said she wanted to see the healer again. He told her to come back only if she wanted candy. She left laughing, telling her mother she could now play as much as she wanted. The abbes watched them go. She felt karma pressing down on her. Then suddenly, a massive wave of energy swept through the room. Even Yin struggled to remain steady. Wang's voice rang out. He said he had allowed the 3 of them to stay because he needed to treat his patient, but there would be consequences for spying on his clan's secret techniques. He stepped out, releasing his aura. He told them they could leave this place. His anger was unmistakable. After throwing the dagger midair, the blade struck a beam above, and a sudden surge of energy pulled it off course. The dagger embedded itself into the wall, and then, as if guided by an invisible hand, snapped back toward Wang. The abbess saw it clearly. Wang stepped out fully, now holding 2 daggers. The technique they had just witnessed was unmistakably unique. The first-rate disciple's mind reeled. That was the phantom grasp technique, something only evolutionary realm masters could execute. How was a mere first-rate doing that? The abbeys told Wang to calm down and said they were all ready. But the first-rate disciple charged first, shouting, "How dare he attack them?" Wang moved at the same time, saying he assumed they had come with impure intentions. The disciple decided she would use Rampant Tempest sword and knock him down. Before she could complete it, something shocking happened. The abbess had already moved. She struck the disciple's neck lightly, and the girl collapsed instantly. The abbess caught her and tossed her aside while Wang's attack was still in motion. Wang's strike was already committed. The abbess thought it was too late to dodge. She blocked with her hand, but the force clenched around her wrist. The unconscious disciple slid aside, and Young stared in shock. Then a real fight began. Wang pressed forward relentlessly. The abbeys remained calm. Even after seeing his earlier display, he showed no hesitation. This child was no ordinary martial artist. His medical skill was not the only thing they had been sent to observe. Wang threw 1 dagger outward. The abbeys assumed he intended to flank her. She deflected the projectile, but Wang had already closed in behind her. She prepared for the incoming strike. He was smiling. That unsettled her. Young shouted for a master. Suddenly, the thrown dagger curved back toward the abbess from behind. At the same time, Wang lunged from the front. The abbess released her energy instantly, grabbed Wang's wrist, and knocked away the second dagger. She hurled him into the air and followed with a palm strike to his abdomen. Wang was sent flying. He coughed blood as he hit the ground. The first-rate disciple regained consciousness, clutching her head. Young stared at the sight of her master fighting Wang and wondered what had even happened. The abbeys realized she had gone all out without meaning to. She had not expected a 20-year-old to wield phantom grasps so masterfully. Then she noticed it. A thread. Wang had already regained control of his dagger using that thread. He stood again and told her to come at him once more. The abbeys had never heard of a martial art that used threads like that. Had he reached such a level on his own before the clash could continue? Mule arrived.